quit my job, and then there was the Ube Donuts, right? So winning Ube Donuts, the People's Champion or whatnot, and then we got some media from it. We were on Chicago's Best. Steve Dolinsky stopped by for Hungry Hound. So those are all things that got put in the media, and then it made Gurnee Donuts a destination spot. It was no longer this hole-in-the-wall donut shop. People actually wanted to visit it for Ube Donuts. So it was just, I don't know, it happened like fast. And the weekends, like we would take pre-orders through emails. There would be days that we would have like 50 pre-orders of Ube Donuts, whether it be half dozen, a few, or whatnot. And at that time, there was no ordering system, so I was just taking everything manually.
Wow. Isn't that crazy how and the people that order these Ube Donuts, mainly Filipino or non-Filipino?
I think it's all across the board now, but
Okay.
I would say in the beginning it was mainly Filipinos.
Isn't it so cool how tight, my wife's Filipino as well. It's just like how tight they are. It's just like, it's so insane.
For sure. And everyone knows everyone. So, I mean, I think that also helped to the success of Ube Donuts. Like I said, I would say majority of my friends are Filipino.
Okay.
And just, just got some really supportive friends, and they really just helped share Ube Donuts to everyone. And
because at that time, how many other places were doing Ube?
None.
I have like a mental checklist. The one day I didn't lock the door, someone walked in asking about this EMT. So it's an EMT class.
Yeah, at first I saw the dummies in the window, and I was like, what satanic...
I'm a paramedic by trade. It freaks out a lot of dogs walking by.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You like, we're teaching class, we hear just dogs going crazy right out in front. Yeah.
That's nuts. But, I mean, that's awesome that, this is here. Like, you would never know that this would be here right off Cermak and, Damon.
And Lawrence found me this spot.
Oh, did he really?
That's how small the world is.
It's a very small world.
And he was referred by Justin Doggett.
Okay. Another good friend of mine.
Right? The world of jiu-jitsu.
With Lawrence and Justin, I've been doing jiu-jitsu with them for a little bit close to or over 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
Since probably 2009.
Okay.
But Lawrence has been there forever, and so has Justin.
Yeah.
And obviously Justin's in the coffee space as well, and he actually provided cold brew at my wedding. Before cold brew was a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously cold brew's everywhere now.
Yeah.
But even before like Starbucks had cold brew, like his Kyoto Black cold brew, I was like, we got to have that at our wedding, and we got in contact and we made it work.
How big was the wedding?
We had close to 300 bottles of it. So he provided a bunch of containers of cold brew, and then we just bottled it.
Okay.
But he helped with everything.
So great. He offered the same thing, and I think we were already pretty close to finishing the planning process, but so gracious.
Oh yeah, Justin's awesome.
We used to host a show together.
Oh, you were that guy.
I was that guy.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's even smaller world. Yeah, okay. No, I totally get it. I was like, this guy looks familiar. I was like, but I don't know him. I was like, Victor. But okay, now I get it. So you used to be all the way up in Rogers Park then?
No, I would drive. I would take this stuff, drive up, set up at his shop, and then we would record. Okay. And then I would pack it and come back here.
Oh man! All right, that's awesome.
So Kevin Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Like I said pre-recording, I wasn't too familiar on who was behind Gurnee Donuts, and I never thought I'd be having this conversation. But recently, I saw you on social media. I think you hosted a dinner.
I did.
You hosted a dinner at Kamai Fine Dining.
So Kamai Fine Dining. So really good friends with Mona. Okay. They're closed now. They're working on something.
For the holiday, or just just for a project?
No, so their current location they closed, and they're working on another location. But everything's still a little tentative right now.
No worries. So, how is it hosting that dinner? Because I recognize a lot of the people in there.
Yeah.
Shout out. I mean, I'm sure I recognize more. I'm forgetting, but like Derek and Francis. But like, I was like, oh my god, this is such a cool room of people with good food. What was it like hosting?
It wasn't that stressful because I feel like I'm really good friends with the group that was there. Okay. And I feel like all summer long, I've been talking about hosting a dinner with Mona at Kamai just because, Filipino food, Chinese food, I mean, it's out there, right? Like, it's pretty common. Yeah. Not many Cambodian restaurants out there. So for me to get these guys in the room together, they were like, yeah, let's do it. So we kept trying to shoot for different dates, and finally this date worked. And I mean, it was a cold day, but everyone showed up. But who was there? Let's see.
There's a lot of busy people there.
There was.
Right?
I mean, we had Francis, obviously, side practice. We had Tim and Jeannie, Kasama.
Right.
Spencer from Triple Crown.
Right. I know these people through social media, but not formally. Not personally.
But it was a good group of small business owners that essentially are all relatable. I mean, we're all working, we're all hustling, and we all have really busy schedules. So for them to be able to come together on a Monday, that was a Monday night.
Really?
Yeah, Monday night. So it worked out.
Was there a purpose to it besides sharing Cambodian food?
No, not at all. Like, honestly, I just wanted to bring some good people together and try Cambodian food.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them have tried Cambodian food, but with the accolades that Mona has gotten from the past couple of years, she got James Beard nomination and all that. So it was just like, I already knew that she was going to be closing her doors that week. So it was kind of like a last opportunity to be able to get these guys together and have dinner and share her food. And Mona was all on board, and with her schedule, she's always in the kitchen, so she never has time to spend with anyone else besides her family. So it was cool to get like-minded people together.
Yeah, I agree. Have you been to something similar? Happens at the what's it called? He calls it family meal at Ethan Lim's Hermosa.
I haven't been to Family Meal, but I've actually purchased Family Meal from Ethan. Ethan also, another relatable story as well. But Ethan Lim's brother-in-law, he also has a donut shop, Something Sweet. But when I would be running short on ingredients, I would actually reach out and borrow ingredients and stuff. And I guess my dad, 20 years ago, actually helped him buy some equipment as well.
Amazing.
So very small world.
Yeah, I don't know too many Cambodians personally, and just hearing your name, I would have assumed Chinese. Are you Chinese from Cambodia, or how did? Because I'm Chinese from Burma.
Okay.
For the longest time, before my DNA test, I thought I was Burmese, and my DNA test came back 100% Chinese.
So speaking of DNA tests, okay, so my background is Cambodian. I grew up speaking the language, obviously going to public schools, American schools, whatever. Obviously, that language has dwindled. I don't really have too many Cambodian or Khmer friends.
Yeah.
But my original last name was L-Y, but it was pronounced Lee.
Okay.
But everyone kept saying Lai, and I think that annoyed my parents. So then they decided to change it to Lee. So instead of being recognized as Cambodian, now everyone thought that I was Korean.
Oh, okay.
So that was... Growing up, I was like, "Oh, are you Korean? Are you Korean?" Or either that, or are you related to Bruce Lee? Right?
Yeah.
All those Asian jokes.
Yeah. Well, and then with the theme of ube, did you get Filipino at all?
So I do get. Some people do say, are you Filipino or whatnot? Which obviously I'm not. I do have a really large group of Filipino friends. So during that time for creating the ube donut, a lot of people were like, you should try ube donut, and then my girlfriend, fiance at the time, who's now my wife, she's obviously a Filipino as well.
Oh, okay.
So, desserts, pastries, ube is a big thing. So I worked on a lot of different recipes on trying to get this perfect donut, this ube donut. And, I didn't think I was going to go anywhere. And that was during a time that there was a thing called Donut Fest.
Okay.
So this was, I think, 2016 Donut Fest. And they did it at Chop Shop in Wicker Park.
Okay.
At that time, it was big. I think there was like 20 plus bakeries that were competing, and there was 2 awards. There was Judge's Choice, and then there was People's Choice. So we submitted our ube donut. Didn't know what people were going to think of it, right? The event ends. I mean, it looked like everyone enjoyed it. The event ends, and I think one of the judges comes up to us, or the host, Becca, and she's like, "Hey, you guys got second place for People's Choice." And we're like, all right, cool, awesome. So we packed up, left, we went to Peace Pizza, grabbed some pizza. And then I think Becca called me maybe a couple hours later. It's like, hey, we're actually about to announce Judge's Choice, but they picked you guys. So there was a group of maybe half a dozen of us, and we're already eating, drinking beers, whatever, celebrating our runner-up award, right? And I already put it on Facebook, runner-up, People's Choice, awesome. So just to be able to get that first place Judge's Choice, we were ecstatic. We went back and got this big trophy, and it just, I don't know, there was tears of joy.
Of course.
Didn't think we were going to get there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a small town local event, but it was something, right? Something to get us in the media or something.
So that was 2016. Take us back to, you said 20 years ago, so like what, the 90s?
So our donut shop
when it first opened.
So our donut shop's been open since 1994.
Okay.
And
how old were you at the time?
94, I was 9 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just being a kid these days, right? Or would you spend a lot of time with your parents? Like, did they have other businesses? Or?
No. So Gurnee Donuts, my parents opened that up in 1994.
Yeah.
Before that, there was 2 other donut shops.
Okay.
We had a donut shop called Lee Donuts, my last name, Donuts. That we had with my cousins. My dad and his cousin had a falling out, so we ended up splitting that, and they took over. And then we opened up another donut shop in Itasca that only lasted for about a year. So Gurnee Donuts is our 3rd donut shop that we opened up in 1994. And yeah, I was 9 years old, and to be honest with you, like, I would always be at the donut shop because my parents didn't want to pay for childcare. So
it's expensive.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, for working, parents, like immigrant parents, like that came here with nothing, like
right.
It was all hustle for them, right? Like, make a penny, save a penny.
I guess what did they do before donuts? Like, what was the timeline when they first immigrated here? What were some opportunities that were available to them?
So my parents are actually both survivors of the Khmer Rouge.
Yeah.
So pretty much in the 70s, mid 70s, they were pretty much in encampments, like the killing fields, like working in the fields. And then when they finally came to the U.S. as refugees.
How does one leave that, or how does one get saved from that?
They go to neighboring countries. So, and I think it was like the Red Cross that helped out with that. And you weren't. No, you. No, I wasn't born at all. So,
do you have any siblings?
I do. I do have a brother.
Older or younger?
Younger, 4 years younger.
Okay, so because I'm sure some parents had kids with, as refugees, like run around. Crossing borders with kids.
For sure, and I can only imagine how hard that was.
Oh wow.
My mom does tell me stories about her sisters that did have kids, and they, whether it's running through the jungles or whatnot, trying to survive from just trying to find food or whatever. I believe that 2 of they would essentially be my cousins, but my mom's sister's youngest daughters passed away during that time. I think one was 1 and one might have been like 3 or something like that.
Okay. Wow.
Don't know too much detail because I don't like to really talk about it. But as far as my mom's experience during the whole Khmer Rouge thing, I mean, it's pretty much every day, especially for customers that are willing to listen. She's got stories for days, and that was kind of something that, even though I appreciate now what she's gone through, but hearing that every day for my entire life, being at the donut shop, it was a bit much for me.
I wonder if there will be a point where it'll be different for you, where it'll be a point where you don't want to forget.
No, I don't ever want to forget. I mean,
and let me put this out there, because it reminds me of Francis being so gracious. If there is a point, and this is something I'm trying to navigate myself, but if you want to have a recorded conversation ever, this is it, right? If you wanted, and this could be in someone's home or wherever, we have the setup, and you would have something documented,
right,
forever. So that's the offer for you.
for me and my mother.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And anyone listening, I think that's something I'm trying to navigate right now. Is I think at our wedding, we got married almost 3 months ago.
Okay.
And we had our videographers create a video podcast room. So they turned one of the bridal suites into a space with like a couch, and people could just come in and then record a video message. And I'd like to do that. I recently had a friend who lost her father to cancer, and just I wonder if they would be interested in having documented videos of having that one last opportunity to have a chat about things that they might have never talked about.
For sure.
Right? Something like that. I'm just putting it out there.
You know what? As old school as my mother is, she would probably be 100% against that. But we can try. I mean, honestly, it would be amazing to document all of her stories because there's so much, and it's a lot,
Yeah,
and also, I mean, she's got grandkids now, so I have a 3 and a 6-year-old, and it'd be cool to share her stories with them. But
no pressure, just the opportunities there though.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So the sacrifice and the risks they took, did they end up on the West Coast, or how did they?
They did.
Okay.
My mom ended up, I think she entered the United States through Long Beach, and Long Beach does have a really large Cambodian population as well because of that.
Now, would you assume that's through like Red Cross as well, or just a separate entity?
I believe it was the Red Cross.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. But I believe she was a refugee, and then she entered, I believe it was Thailand, and then from Thailand in the United States.
Okay.
So,
wow. What were the next steps? Like, you got to figure out life after that, which reminds me of all the migrants that are here right now, right?
For sure.
Like, what were some opportunities that they were hustling for?
I think her first job was doing some help at a local community college. I'm not sure the extent, but at the same time, she also tried to go to college, but I think it was just too difficult for her, so she ended up dropping out within the first year. But for as long as I've known, growing up, my mom's always been in manufacturing.
Okay.
And that was with my dad as well until he was able to get a little capital to start a donut shop of his own. And he learned how to make donuts on the West Coast.
Oh.
So similar to, I don't know if you ever watched the documentary, The Donut King?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah, so he learned how to make donuts on the West Coast, and then he ended up moving to the Midwest and pretty much borrowed a lot of people's money to start a donut shop of his own.
Were they together or separate at the time?
I think they were together when they moved out here to Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So why Chicago? Did he know people here?
He did.
Oh,
he had some friends out here.
Okay.
So.
And it was a lot easier to start a business back then?
I don't know how easy it was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like just starting a business in general is always difficult, right?
Yeah. But to have people believe in your vision.
Yeah.
Right? I want to open up a donut shop.
Whatever guarantees he made his friends on paying them back, that's on him. Clearly, the first donut shop did work out. I mean, Lee Donuts is still around now. I mean, it's on its 7th owner. Our second donut shop didn't work out, but that could also be because it was in a very heavy populated Italian location.
Okay.
But right now, I mean, Gurnee Donuts, 94. I mean, we're going on 30 years next year. So.
Yeah. Yep. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you ever, so growing up, you got to, do you recall just being super observant of people coming in and out of the doors and how your parents treated them with probably hospitality and respect and
absolutely
the hustle?
I mean, when it comes to my parents are the most hardworking people that I know. And I'm sure a lot of people say that about their own parents, but I mean, that's what we observe when we're growing up, right? We see our parents providing, working. We might not appreciate it then because we want to spend time with our friends and whatnot. But I see it. I mean, even today, I mean, they're both retired now, but they still want to be a part of the business and help out. I mean, they started and I mean, they want to help out, right?
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I'm not going to lie, I completely resented the donut shop. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to hang out with my friends or whatnot. But again, I would have to be there while they're in production. Production back then could be anywhere from probably like 4 to 6 hours a day overnight. Usually would go there at like 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and then pretty much be there till the morning. And if I didn't have school, then I'd still be there during the entire operational hours. So what did I do the entire time? I pretty much, I think at one point we brought a TV and like my Nintendo or something there. Otherwise, it's just me walking around the strip mall, just trying to figure out what to do.
Okay. What were you thinking about when you were figuring out what to do? What were some of your interests at the time that'd be like, I don't want to do donuts. I wish I could be doing this.
There was a comic shop next door.
Okay.
I mean, I think I would like spend a lot of time in there, even though I'm sure they didn't want me touching anything in there.
Got some glaze on your hands?
Oh yeah. I mean, just whatever, right? And I feel like being like a kid, I don't know how old I was then, but just also with my little brother, he would always tag along. So we would just be roaming around the strip mall. I mean, there was a deli, there was a convenience store, there was a comic shop, which we spent most of our time, but just killing time aimlessly.
Sure.
But there's also a Chinese restaurant. I mean, we would spend time more in that kitchen than our own kitchen.
So then were there expectations for you to just take up the mantle one day?
Not at all. My parents didn't want me to do anything with the donut shop. It's a lot of work. I mean, and I still agree. It is a lot of work.
So were they pushing school then?
They were pushing school.
Okay.
But it's also, and looking back at it now, it's hard to push school when you didn't go through the school system yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if my dad didn't finish college, neither did my mom. So it's just like, watching them work all the time is kind of what's transpired to what I do today. Is you know, even though I have help and I've got employees and whatnot, for me, I still want to be in the kitchen. I want to be able to be a role model and lead by example and show people like, all right, hey, you know, even though there's other things I could be doing, I want to show you that I'm here and that I'm still working.
I think that's true for any entrepreneur, any successful entrepreneur. Is if you get too far removed from the process, your team might not. You lose some credibility, maybe.
For sure.
Right, and for you to have still that personal touch on the creative process, I think is important, and is probably felt or tasted by people that consume Gurnee Donuts.
And you want a consistency as well. So, I mean, it's nice to have us back there. And by all means, I trust everyone that works for me. It's just, I kind of feel empty if I'm not there.
Yeah.
Like,
Same with this EMT class. Like, I still have my license, my paramedic license, but I'm not on an ambulance. I haven't been on an ambulance for 5 years. So I feel this huge imposter syndrome of teaching something I'm no longer a part of.
Yeah.
So I heavily rely on my team who are very active, medical students, nurses, paramedics, firefighters, to kind of take up the mantle. But I still enjoy being here, like being present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just while my kids are in school, what else am I going to do? I mean, besides jiu-jitsu, you know, got to work still.
So how far did you make it in school then?
I graduated.
Yeah.
So, a little history on what I did before donuts.
Sure.
My major was exercise science.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So, I went to the University of Wisconsin Parkside for exercise science. Graduated, bachelor's degree. First job out of college, I think, was selling exercise equipment, and that was just so I figured what I was going to do. Then I ended up working for a wellness company called Vitality. I think Humana bought them out, so now it's part of the Humana group. But for about a little under 10 years, I've always been in the wellness field.
Like, did you dabble in personal training at all?
I did do personal training.
Yeah?
I mean, before there was Peloton, I was teaching cycling classes as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And just it was between teaching group exercise classes, I was managing wellness programs. So how wellness programs work for a lot of corporations is essentially they have their individuals do like smoking cessation to make sure you don't have any tobacco. And if you don't have any tobacco in you, then we're going to lower your insurance. But it was all along those lines and just different protocols, doing a fitness assessment.
Okay.
So just doing all of those things in order to help out the insurance.
Was that on your end? Did it meet expectations or exceed expectations on the level of fulfillment that you thought you would have?
So, no to the corporate side, but as far as like teaching group exercise and like personal training, that was fun. I enjoyed spending time with, you know, people that took my classes. I mean, there would be times that I would lead like runs and stuff like that, and it's like, all right, well, I get to be away from the corporate office for the next 2 hours because I'm leading a 7-mile run or something like that. Although it didn't take me 2 miles to do a 7-mile run, but just saying.
So then, were you thinking that you were gonna kind of take this on the road and like start your own brand one day?
No, I mean, like I was in my.
What was this? Was this in the 2000s or?
So this was 2000, probably like 2005 until maybe 2014.
Like YouTube is kind of coming up, and like the YouTube fitness influencers were starting.
No, I was never gonna be
you were
on that
never
level.
gonna.
No, not at all. I think for me it was just a job to figure out what the next step was.
Okay.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I mean I was having fun. Like, you know, people say like do something you love and you enjoy. I mean, at that time, like working out and like, you know, going out in the evenings or whatnot and then returning back to work, I mean, it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Did it pay the bills? Probably not, but I was getting by, right?
Surprised. It didn't? It didn't really? The corporate like kind of
wellness? I mean, corporate wellness then is probably not what it is today. I mean, I feel like I feel like exercise and wellness today is like on a whole different level than what it was how many years ago? Like 8 years ago, 9 years ago?
If not more, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So fast forward to what are we looking at?
Or I guess like what were you doing to cultivate what the next step would be?
I don't know. I was just living my life, to be honest with you.
Like are you someone that has like existential crises or are you just not thinking about that stuff? Like how, like with the level of self-awareness, like what should I be doing right now? Like, am I doing what I should be doing? Like, none of those thoughts?
Yes. Okay. So in the back of my mind, I did think that I was going to essentially work and take over the donut shop.
Oh.
But I was waiting for my parents to essentially fully retire.
That's so interesting because usually, and I say usually from a small sample pool, but when you grow up in a family business, you usually don't want to pursue that, and you kind of fall into it.
It probably wasn't. Okay, so post-college into my wellness career, I probably wanted nothing to do with the donut shop.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't until like later where my dad's health was kind of declining just because, I mean, he got diagnosed with diabetes type 2. I think he also had a triple bypass heart surgery.
Wow.
And I think at that point when the diabetes was really kicking in, like, he didn't have the energy to, like, work. So during the time that I was doing the wellness, there were days that I would be going to the donut shop at, like, 1 o'clock in the morning, making donuts, leaving there at 5 o'clock in the morning, just so there was donuts to sell for the day, and then come back to work for my wellness job that usually started at like 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. So if it started at 6 o'clock, then okay, I got to go in earlier. But those are some long days. But again, didn't want my parents to fail. I mean, the donut shop was theirs, and my dad wasn't healthy enough to make donuts. So, I mean, I manned up. I learned how to make donuts by watching my dad. I mean,
and at that time, you just did it to help out your parents, not because you enjoyed it, right?
Right. At that point, it was literally just to help out my parents. And I mean,
where was your younger brother?
He's always had a corporate job, and we're a little different. I mean, he's a little more non-hands-on. Like,
okay.
I don't know if he's ever even mowed the lawn, to be honest with you. He's just a very non-physical guy. I mean, very smart guy. Just I feel like who's the character in Encanto? Luisa. See, I was like the Luisa of my family. You know, like just doing all the work, doing all the labor.
Okay.
So it was like my job to like make sure the family didn't fail or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think making donuts. So doing.
How long did that happen? Did you help out, like pull long days like that? How long did you keep that up for?
I think I did that for 2 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
2 years.
So I did that for 2 years, and then essentially when I was like, all right, you know what? After I got married, which was 2016, 2015, sorry.
She's gonna kill you.
She's gonna kill me. It's also tattooed on me as well, right? But yes. After I got married, I was like, you know what? All right, it's time to like essentially level up, right?
Oh, okay.
So that was when I decided to quit my job, quit the wellness, and then do the donut shop full time.
Is this before or after you told your parents about that?
This was after my dad had already had triple bypass heart surgery and him just managing his diabetes, which Asian parents and diabetes type 2 especially, they do not do the best at managing that. Well, mine anyways.
With what? Modifying behavior?
Modifying behavior,
like
taking insulin on time, just all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But did you bring up the fact that like you want to take it to the next level?
No, it was a gradual thing. So
okay.
We'll look at it this way. When I started working at the donut shop full time, I thought the expectations were my parents were gonna just not be there anymore. No, that was not the case. They were still there. They helped out, which fine. It was fine until I wanted to start to change things. And then when I started to change things is essentially when it was just, you know, oil and water starting to be mixed together, right?
Interesting. Okay.
And there was a lot of friction and different things I wanted to do, whether it was try new products, try different things like maple bacon or whatnot. It was always hit back with some type of like, oh, people aren't going to like that. Oh, that's disgusting, whatever. But then when you start to see people actually like enjoy it, like, man, salt and savory, this maple bacon, this is genius. And this was early on. Like, I think Voodoo Donuts did it. I think that was the only other people that did it at the time.
Yeah. Which wasn't in Chicago.
No, it wasn't in Chicago.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to play around with it. And, like,
yeah.
As far as, like, the bacon goes, like, my wife made bacon and, you know, she put, like, sugar on it. So it was, like, candied sugar. And coming from someone that had absolutely no culinary experience, I was like, man, this is really good. Let me put this on a maple donut. And it worked out, right? So that was like the first experiment. And again, everything from either doing that or doing like red velvet, it was always hit with, why are you doing that? Like, people aren't going to buy that.
Without trying it?
Without trying it, right. But I just think that's just their mentality. Like, they hate new things. Like, they're just so in their ways.
You know, which leads me to wonder if people of our generation will ever come across something that we refuse to modify or change or adapt to.
Possibly. But, you know, I also look at it, too, as they are my parents. And even, like, raising my children now, like, I get it. Like, if my child were to tell me something right now, even though they're young, like, I would probably hit back with, like, a little, like, resentment, or not resentment, but just be like, I wouldn't be open to it right away, right?
Sure.
Whereas I think that's how my parents are. It's just like they've been doing something for...
Yeah.
They've been doing donuts probably for 20 years at that point, right? So we're about to hit 30 years. So it's just like, this way works, and this is what's kept our doors open. Like, okay. Because, I mean, I feel like with them, they just want to get by, right? So quit my job, and then there was the Ube Donuts, right? So winning Ube Donuts, the People's Champion or whatnot, and then we got some media from it. We were on Chicago's Best. Steve Dolinsky stopped by for Hungry Hound. So those are all things that got put in the media, and then it made Gurnee Donuts a destination spot. It was no longer this hole-in-the-wall donut shop. People actually wanted to visit it for Ube Donuts. So it was just, I don't know, it happened like fast. And the weekends, like, we would take pre-orders through emails. There would be days that we would have like 50 pre-orders of Ube Donuts, whether it be half dozen, a few, or whatnot. And at that time, there was no ordering system, so I was just taking everything manually.
Wow. Isn't that crazy how, and the people that order these Ube Donuts, mainly Filipino or non-Filipino?
I think it's all across the board now, but
Okay.
I would say in the beginning it was mainly Filipinos.
Isn't it so cool how tight, my wife's Filipino as well. It's just like how tight they are. It's just like, it's so insane.
For sure. And everyone knows everyone. So, I mean, I think that also helped to the success of Ube Donuts. Like I said, I would say majority of my friends are Filipino.
Okay.
And just, you know, just got some really supportive friends, and they really just helped share Ube Donuts to everyone. And
yeah, because at that time, how many other places were doing Ube?
None. There was no Ube Donuts.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the thing now.
It is now.
It's the thing.
And also, like, even though that was 2016, so I just call myself a has-been. Like, that was, like, the greatest thing that possibly happened. And here we are, still going with Ube Donuts. And, I mean, we just do it on the weekends just because it is a lot.
Oh, really?
And just getting all the ingredients and everything. And, you know, for the most part, like, my weekly customers are usually, like, locals, like the regulars, you know? I've got a group of guys in there that have been coming to the donut shop for pretty much almost 30 years. It used to be a larger group, probably 20 of them or so. We're down to a handful now. I mean, there are a lot of retirees, but I just want to do it on the weekend. That's all. It's manageable for me.
What's the farthest someone has traveled to Gurnee Donuts?
You know, I've had people come from Hawaii.
Oh my God.
But I also, when I say they came from Hawaii, I'm pretty sure they didn't come from Hawaii just for Ube Donuts. I'm sure they were in Gurnee, Great America, Gurnee Mills, and they went on TripAdvisor or whatever and looked up donut shop or coffee, right?
Sure.
But I've had people come pretty much from all over. I mean, I've had people from Australia, from Hawaii.
Wow.
Where else? I think I've had someone come from Alaska.
On a consistent basis, I'm sure people are still coming from the city.
They are.
Just shooting up, Skokie Highway just to get some donuts.
But also what helps out, too, is that I do have a lot of vendors that I do work with that do carry Ube Donuts around the city as well.
Right. And even with those places, most notably Side Practice, you got to make it in time. They sell out.
They do, yeah. And I think I was probably one of the first products that Francis carried originally.
It's awesome.
So, shout out to Francis, right?
Yeah, we love Francis. One of the things that we skipped over is this fire. What the heck?
Oh, yeah.
This tragedy.
We totally skipped over the fire. So, the fire, I would say, was probably the pivotal moment in my life where just seeing my family's business that they've been running for the last 20 years just come down to just
I saw the picture of the kitchen. It's
just nothing. It was like just crumbles of like everything.
Yeah.
So I was at a friend's bachelor party that day, and I got a phone call from the fire marshal, and he's like, "Hey, there's been a fire at the donut shop. Do you have a key to get in?" And so in my mind, I was like, "Okay, small fire." I was like, "No." And they're like, "Well, if you don't have a key or if you're not close by, are you okay with us, breaking the door down?" And I was like,
"So the fire was ongoing."
Yeah, it was ongoing. So I called my parents and they didn't pick up. So I ended up telling the fire marshal, like, okay, go for it. So they went in, and I think I was in display, so I drove back, and I was like, wow, this is a serious fire. Like, everything was black, ashes, just complete destruction, right? And all the smoke impacted the entire plaza, so like everyone was pretty much outside, just like kind of like looking in.
Was anyone hurt?
No one was hurt. No one was there. So it was after hours. I think it happened a little bit before 5 p.m. and we usually close our doors at 2.
Okay. Did it carry over to other businesses?
It did.
Oh, wow.
Honey Baked Ham was next door to us. I think at the time there was a smoke shop as well. So it impacted the local businesses. I think they had to be closed for a little bit too, just to essentially help with the smoke damage. But that day, like, still didn't get a hold of my parents when I actually got there, and finally I got a phone call back. And they ended up showing up, and they just saw everything. And for them, I don't know how they really took it, because at the same time they kind of like laughed about it, like, oh,
right then and there,
like, oh, early retirement. And I'm like, what the hell, early retirement? But again, we're talking about two people that are traumatized by the genocide in Cambodia. Like, they've dealt with losing everything. So for them, it wasn't a big deal. But it was a big deal because this is their livelihood right here. Right. This is their business. So, I mean, I had to go through the whole insurance thing, and I find out that they didn't have the insurance coverage to cover the shop. Like, it wasn't casualty insurance, but I'm not sure if it was liability. Maybe it might have been liability, but they didn't have liability insurance, so essentially it was like, what's the next step? Like, I mean, we've all got a little money saved up or whatnot, but I mean, this is a lot of damage. Like, I don't know how we're supposed to, like, what do you guys want to do next?
Yeah.
And we were all sitting on the curb, and I think by that time it was like almost nightfall, and I have the picture, and we're just all sitting on the curb, and I'm just like, I mean, this is really sad. Like, I've been helping out this donut shop for the last couple of years, like, early mornings because of my dad's health, and now it's gone. So good news is we did recover. We did start a crowdfunding, and
was that hard? Some people have a hard time doing it for themselves, so they have people that build the GoFundMe for.
I don't think I would do it now just because of that, like, how people feel about it. But I feel like it was like early on then.
At the same time, people would also say, like, if you need help, reach out, right? But
yeah.
it's always like that ego thing of like asking for money type.
For sure,
type
like
thing.
pride and ego.
Yeah.
I didn't know where we were gonna go, and I was like, you know what? I need to do something for my parents to like get this business back up. I think we raised maybe like $12,000. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to like maybe get a new mixer, a new fryer, or something, right? Mm-hmm. And then pretty much we worked with a restoration company, and we were able to reopen within, it was a little under a year. The first promise was that we'll be able to reopen in 3 months. No, that did not take 3 months. It took a year. So we opened up the following year on National Donor Day.
I read that.
Yeah.
Now, aside from checking in with the renovations and the reconstruction, one, did you guys consider going to another location? You're like, oh, this is a kind of a reset. Should we just find another location at this point?
We thought about it,
Okay.
but at the same time, we just wanted to figure out what essentially the landlord's insurance would cover, which the landlord's insurance ended up covering just a blank space. So that helped out a lot. And then just for 20 years, we've been in Gurnee, and we've watched so many families grow at the shop. And I just felt like we were such a strong part of the community, and by doing the crowdfunding and just raising some money. I mean,
it would suck to just take it and go somewhere else.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And not to mention, my parents live 2 minutes away. Like, we had to make it convenient for them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the fire happened before I quit my wellness job.
Okay. So wow, this whole time.
So this was during when I was engaged, and when my dad's health was pretty much suffering, and I essentially was helping out at the donut shop before going to my full-time job. Yeah.
Holy shit.
So
how do you even prioritize things at that point?
So watching my parents work their entire lives, I mean, that's me. I will essentially do things to help out, and if I feel that it's important to my family, like, I'm going to do it.
So you're the type of person that doesn't dwell?
No, I don't dwell.
And you kind of just
go
figure out what needs to be done and you'll do it?
Absolutely. And even like today, I mean, there are days that I don't get a lot of sleep. I mean, I feel like I average like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a day. Back then, probably even less. Like, go to bed at like maybe 9 o'clock and then wake up at 11:30 to go to the donut shop to make some donuts to sell for the day, and then go teach group exercise classes. Like, I mean, it wasn't ideal, but I had to do it. Yeah. My brother wasn't. So
you're not holding back.
No. It's all right. He helps in other ways, I guess.
Was it a brief respite or vacation for your parents at this time?
It was. So we have a breakfast club that comes every morning, and those are like essentially the retirees. Their new spot was McDonald's down the street. So my mom and dad would still go meet them every day at the McDonald's. And there was another individual. Her name was Shirley. She's passed away now. But my mom loved her. Like, she lived by herself with her dogs. My mom would bring her food if like there was too much snow, couldn't get out. But she would always come to the donut shop every day. 1 glazed donut, 1 coffee, 2 Splenda. And that was tradition. So she would pick her up, and then they would go to the McDonald's, and the breakfast club would meet at the McDonald's every day for that entire year until we reopened.
It's more than donuts.
Yeah. So just my parents' dedication to their customers, like, I see that. And just and that's what's built such a strong relationship with just our customer base in general. Like, they don't have many friends outside of the donut shop. I mean, their friends are their customers. So it's just like watching the kids grow up, and now they're all teenagers or adults, or they got kids themselves. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see. Absolutely.
That's amazing. In business, we try to think about ways to scale, and we can only be in so many places at one time. But there's something that can't be replicated, like your attention, right? And the attention you give to someone else. And in that very moment, it's also gone. And if that someone realizes that you can't get that moment back, that's so special. And you just try to treat every moment like it's potentially its last. That's amazing. I don't hear that too often from immigrant parents, I guess. And it's really nice to hear that. It's really nice to hear that was definitely one of the most important or impactful takeaways that you got by observing your parents. Because I'm sure these days you probably still remember people's orders. And as soon as they walk in, you're like, this and this?
No, absolutely.
Right?
And they appreciate that. And that's the thing with, and I've said this in like other like media takes and whatnot, but when just watching my parents, how they treat their customers, it's always been for me just to essentially build a community within the donut shop. And we have that. Whether it's with our regulars, new customers, we try to have at least like a small conversation with most people that come in, and just really get to know our customer base. Because you're going to learn something new all the time, right?
Yeah. So, is there any interest in, it's been a while since I've been in creating a shop similar to Side Practice, in the sense of it's warm and you can stay and chat, and it felt like, I wouldn't say hole in the wall, but like it just felt like you pick up your donuts and go. But you talking about having regulars come in and having coffee, like putting couches and stuff in there. I know it's a little small, but is there any interest in that, or like maybe a second location? I don't know.
You know, there's always been interest in a second location. It's just the opportunity hasn't really presented itself. I feel like there's always people that are always willing to like offer money and like invest, but that's what it is. It's just money, right? And I feel like money is fairly easy to access. Really just looking for someone to like put skin in the game. Like, I wish there was two of me to be able to run two shops, right? But that's not going to happen. But at the same time, just like you talking about scaling, maybe like I need to scale back and trust other people to be able to do everything.
It's an art.
Yeah.
It's an art.
I just feel guilty doing it.
It's the hard question is how do you, it's letting go. And by leading by example, people can see how much you care about the people that come into the shop, not just about just the donuts, just the people that come into the shop. And that bleeds into how they take care of the consumers as well. But it's hard to teach someone to care as much as you do because this is your business. It's not their business, right? But I think some of it can go by leading by example. So they continue to see you come in late at night, prep the donuts, be there front-facing towards the consumers, and they see that you care, and inevitably they will care as well. And I think you will get to a point where you're going to probably want, if not already with the two kids and stuff, like want more personal time, right? And trusting that team to move forward.
Yeah, I would.
Whereas on the flip side, I keep nagging Justin about this. He not that he doesn't care, but he'd prefer people come and get their coffee and go out, right? Whereas like I admire the space that Francis has created, this space that brings inspiration and community to the coffee shop.
Yeah. I would say that I'm with all of that. Yeah. Like as far as like creating a space.
It's just finding the right opportunity.
It is finding the right opportunity, and like just it's nice to have a space for people to just essentially come together. And I mean, it's nice to see when there's like my oldies there and then random groups of people that come in and they'll sit with them and then they just communicate, like just bringing random people together just to learn about one another, right?
Yes. There is something to be said about having too big of a space too.
There is, right.
Right?
I would say like our front space is probably the size of this studio right here. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we've got 3 tables. But I don't know. If the opportunity presents itself in the near future for a second location, I would love that. But right now, as far as time, my wife and I, obviously with the 2 children, time doesn't really have that much availability.
Yeah.
Just between drop-offs and pickups from school, after-school activities, trying to get jiu-jitsu in, or my wife doing her Peloton workouts. Just, it's hard to find the time, but we'll see what happens.
If you've thought about it, what type of aesthetics or vibes would you want to build out in your ideal cafe?
I would still want it to be like Gurnee Donuts is now. I mean, we're nothing special, and I've always referred to Gurnee Donuts as kind of like a hole in the wall, which is, it's not a complete hole in the wall. I just redid the floors, so it looks nicer now. Not cheap either, but I think I don't want it to be like too chic, but I just want it to be like for regular people. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to attract a certain crowd of people. Like, I literally want everyone to be able. I mean, you're the working person, you're the corporate person.
Yeah.
Whatever, like, come on in, grab some donuts, grab some coffee, bring it back to your work. I mean,
I remember having the coffee in like a styrofoam cup.
Yeah, well, now they're paper cups.
Now they're paper cups.
Yeah,
now
they're
like,
paper cups.
Like, this is kind of cool.
Right, that's vintage right there, right? Now we're trying to be environmentally. So,
how being a dad, and I hope to be a dad one day, how much influence are you taking from, maybe a lot actually, because you speak very highly of your parents, but how much of them are you kind of passing on or like implementing into how you parent with your kids?
So I go to bed with my son, and we'll usually read a book or whatnot, and then we'll put him to bed, and he, for as long as he's been on Earth, I've never really woken up with him, just because he knows that Dad's got work, right? So I hope that somehow translates to him, like, Dad's always working. Dad's working at the donut shop or whatnot. Now, I do come back home, obviously, and spend time with him. But I hope that I'm able to translate to him that I have a work ethic and that he sees that.
As I agree 100%. Everyone, like we were, Lawrence and I were having this conversation with Dr. Dave yesterday. But it was a recent realization for me to not tie identity too closely with work. So I guess what are some things that you might be teaching or showing and leading by example to help them build a level of self-awareness to identify that work isn't life?
So I do have Kingston in a few different things as far as activities go. I mean, I do have him in jiu-jitsu. I mean, that teaches a lot. I mean, that's self-confidence and just...
What's the perfect age to start them at?
I think, honestly, I think 5, 6
Nice.
is a good age.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, we've dabbled in so many different activities. I mean, I remember trying to put him in soccer at 3 years old and him running away from the field to the lobby. And I was like, all right, soccer's not going to work out. So, I mean, he got a little bit older. We have him in jiu-jitsu. We have him in swimming. But just to be able to put him in different things to figure himself out.
Yeah.
I don't want to force anything. Like, if he were to be like, Dad, I don't like jiu-jitsu. I don't like getting hurt or whatever. Not that he gets hurt. Then, all right, I accept that. And then we'll try to move on to something else. I feel like when I grew up, just... I didn't have many opportunities. My parents were always working. They didn't have time to bring me anywhere. I remember I was in orchestra and just I see all my friends and all their parents come to see the concerts and whatnot. My parents were never there. Same thing goes for volleyball in high school. Like, so I get it now as a parent that when you're a parent, you're providing for your child. And during that time, it was more or less resentment. Like, why are all my friends' parents here to support their kid, but then my parents aren't here? Well, guess what? They were working.
Yeah.
And just going back to my son, I hope that translates to something that, hey, I'm providing all these different things that you can try out and figure it out. See what you like. If you don't like it, that's all right. We'll move on to something different.
What if he took up the donut mantle one day?
I'm not against it.
Oh,
I mean, that's passive income for me right there, right? I don't got to work. Maybe, but we'll see. But just like my parents said to me, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I get it. It's a lot of work.
But isn't anything worth having in life hard work?
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
You need to work.
Yeah.
Like, just generational things. And I guess, you know, if we go from my generation to other generations and whatnot, it's nice to come from seeing my family work so hard because obviously that's my work ethic as well. But just also the other thing is that I also like to enjoy my life as well. Whereas my parents, they don't have much leisure. They enjoy working and that's it.
My parents do, yeah.
So you give them time. They don't know what to do with that time. So I don't know. Everyone's different.
Yeah. We haven't talked about donuts at all.
No, we haven't. Not at all.
So, like I said, everything in life that's worth having will require hard work, sacrifice. What about this industry? And if I were to assume, it's probably the people that you meet, made it worth it for you to stick it out through the 2 years with a day job, with your dad's ailing health, and being engaged. Was there an aspect or a few aspects that you thought, this is what's going to help me persevere?
So, yes, just because I feel like with the donut shop, and I never looked at it this way, but I would say that I'm a fairly social person. Like, it's really easy for me to be able to talk to people and make friends or whatnot and just connect, right? I mean, like what you and I are doing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never looked at the donut shop as an outlet to do that. And working at the donut shop, I was able to connect with even more people, whether it was, you know, the different coffee shops that I work with now that I provide donuts to, but just to network people that have similar and common interests with you. I never looked at it that way. And I feel like just being at the donut shop just was able to connect with a lot of different people.
Yeah. What were some of your earlier, besides the maple bacon donut, other creations that took off?
We've made a lot of different donuts in the past. Some that we obviously just don't carry because it's so time consuming. And again, we have such a large base of regular customers that want their regular items, that when we try new things, that sometimes they're just like, that's nice. But we've done
which goes to say, how long do you stick with something before you let it go, before you give up on it, right? Same with, like, I was going to ask that question with the kids. Like, how long do you encourage them to stick with it before you?
So at the moment, we make small batches of various donuts. And if I have the time and if my schedule allows it, right now I took on quite a bit of wholesale accounts, so it's a little bit harder to be on that creative side. I got Greg in the back too, who's my other full-time baker, and he helps a lot with the creativity. And when it comes to making new items, I would say that if it's going, like, we'll probably do it for a couple weeks, and then we'll switch it up. We'll do something else. But it's all over the place right now.
And that what you are allowing Greg to do is skin in the game, is like valuing his input, and then we get to see if it pays off or not. And I can't imagine, that's probably very fulfilling for Greg, to have your ideas received by someone you work for and be acknowledged and be seen and heard. Like, yes, that's a great idea. Let's work with it.
Absolutely. And I let Greg use his creativity. I mean, for me running around with two little mantras every day and just having Greg there is like amazing. I mean, he'll come up with new different things and he'll put it out there. And like, even if I'm not there, and like the other day he was making like these like croissant, like ham and cheese, like squares, whatnot. They were delicious. We gave them to our regulars. I mean, we didn't sell them, but you know, we make things,
Sure.
let people try stuff, and it got great reception.
Okay.
But so going back to your original question, as far as like what we've done a peanut butter and jelly donut with ruffled chips on top. We've done horchata donuts. I mean, red velvet was early on, but then we've done like carrot cake. What else have we made? Blueberry lemon donuts. We actually did that for my wedding.
Where does the inspo come from?
Social media. I feel like social media helps out a lot.
Yeah.
Just, you know, you're scrolling through and obviously the algorithm gets a hold of you and you're like, oh, I could try something like this, whatever. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? But at least you got the inspiration. You just try different things. And also just things that I try. Like, so when we do travel, I do like trying new donut shops, different bakeries.
Yeah.
So that's another inspiration as well.
Sure.
Just because what I may try in like Portland or Oregon, whatever, like might not be available.
I vividly remember when I was there years ago, wanting to go to Voodoo, but then seeing the line at Voodoo, and then I'm like, I'm not waiting in this line. And we went to a place called Pip's Original Donuts, and like it was made to order. And they were small, like
were
a little
they the mini
larger
donuts?
than. Say it again.
Were they like the mini donuts?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, mini donuts, and they were just like fresh off the rack, and perfect. And you know, I think the type of donut person I am, I think I definitely had an old fashioned phase.
Okay.
But then I think I'm more of a simple glazed type person.
For me, like going to different donut shops, the first donut that I'm going to try out is a glazed donut. And there's another donut shop in Portland, Blue Star.
Okay.
But they got this like brioche glazed donut. So like like brioche, it's like a 2-day like essentially fermented dough, and then they roll it out and they fry it. So all that flavor is like really rich in there.
Okay.
But yeah, usually either a glazed donut or like something sugar.
Right.
All the extra things, I don't know if it's really worth the extra $4 or $5 they put on top of that price tag.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a big Fruity Pebbles guy, so like I would see donuts. I'm like, but people would go nuts for them.
I'm not gonna lie, we do Fruity Pebbles, and kids love.
Yeah,
that.
no, I know. I don't deny that.
They love the colors, and you know, it's Instagrammable for the people that do take pictures of donuts.
Isn't that funny? Like how what's the there's a vegan donut shop in Chicago, right on what is it, Diversity, in the alley, the one in the alley. They were at the farmers market, and then because Justin introduced me to them.
Is it called Bright? No, that's with Metric. Beacon. There you go.
Beacon
okay.
Donuts. I think they're still around. I don't see.
I think they are.
But they, you know, I think we're also very Instagrammable. Having a mural like on the
right. It was like
on the
floral,
alley.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That like I remember just being surrounded by places like Stan's Donuts, Fire Cakes, Do Right. There was like a trend of donuts. Do you feel like that trend is still going on? And or if it's not, like, is there a certain trend within the industry of donuts that's kind of relevant at the moment?
As far as donuts go, yeah, I do. I feel like donuts have exploded over the past several years. Like, I mean, we're looking at stands. I mean, they started as one location, and now they're like a conglomerate, and now they're in Mariano's, and I don't know, they're probably in like ballparks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you know, all these other like artisan donut shops and whatnot. Like, I don't know. There's a lot, but
there's a lot.
There are some staples obviously in Chicago that I do appreciate, and like Donut Vault. I mean,
I haven't been there yet.
They have a legendary glazed donut. There's Do Right Donuts. I'm sure you've been there.
Yep. Prefer that. So I work at Northwestern as well, and I prefer that over Stan's.
Okay.
Stan's is a little too sweet for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do like their glazed. I think it's like the cinnamon sugar.
Glaze is good. I think because I usually go at the end of the day, so they're usually a little sold out of most things. But the Biscoff donut it's heavy. It's sweet. It's heavy, but it's good.
Wait, from Stan's or from
Stan's?
Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking
like the
about.
Biscoff biscuits.
Yeah, and we've tried that as well.
Yeah.
We just did a little different toppings, but we've done Biscoff filled donuts.
How much do you think your consumers value the type of coffee you carry?
I don't know. I value my coffee a lot, and
okay.
To be honest, when we reopened, so after the fire, like coffee was one of my main focuses as far as like just trying to like learn about coffee and getting an espresso machine because when my wife and I first met, like going to get coffee was like our thing, like going to La Colombe or going to Dark Matter. I mean, Dark Matter was like amazing back then. It was like one of the only like craft coffee shops around.
Right.
Same with Passion House, but Passion House, Joshua Millman, he was one of the first guys that I met, and he kind of showed me like different coffees. He helped me get like an espresso machine and stuff like that. So just for me, I enjoy good coffee, like freshly roasted beans, and being able to pull that shot like on the espresso machine or whatnot. Right now we are using a local roaster, Tala, who was actually on the news earlier today with our good weatherman Mike Kaplan. But they started at farmers markets, and now they're like huge. I mean, they've got 3 locations. They've got Libertyville, Highwood, and now Winnetka.
Nice.
Like, true North Shore spots.
Isn't that cool? Like raising other small businesses up, like
absolutely
lifting each other up.
For sure.
Being part of something bigger than yourself. Like that's the best.
Just seeing their growth. I mean, obviously, with their growth, and they carry our donuts as well. It's just they're such a good group of guys, and Joanna and everyone that's over there. But just seeing them start so small and not knowing where they were going to go with it, and just being able to get 2 additional locations in the last 5 years.
Yeah, with scaling, do you have a fear of losing consistency then, right? Like Stan's, like I wonder, like I doubt they've lost I don't know, too much consistency.
I don't know, just because I don't go there that often, but. I mean, I'm not saying
use Stan's as an example, just for yourself. Like I guess, like what's holding us back from scaling, right?
Yeah. Just
and to be honest, like some people are just okay with where they're at, and it's okay to not want to scale, right?
Yeah, and I think just with scaling, I mean, some people become complacent, and maybe that's where I've kind of gone, just with having a family and raising and doing the donut shop.
Yeah.
And essentially keeping my consistent wholesale accounts, but at the end of the day, like I know I want more, and
for the sake of what though? Why?
It's a challenge.
Okay.
And I feel like us as human beings, we always want to challenge ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like to live life and not challenge yourself and just to get by. I mean, essentially that's what my parents are doing. They're just getting by. They've already dealt with all their challenges during the Khmer Rouge, and now they just want to just get by, and that's fine. But for me, I don't know. I just feel like I want the struggle. I want more.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I do jiu-jitsu, right? Like, even though I might suck at it, like it's a challenge. Like maybe I'll get this guy next time I roll with him or whatnot.
Yeah.
Most likely I won't, but I tried.
Well, on jiu-jitsu, how often would you say you have to go, every week to make something stick? For something to start getting absorbed.
I don't know. When I was younger, I used to go like 4 or 5 times a week, and you learn. We've also got individuals that go 5, 6, 7 days. Rex Vargas, twice a day sometimes.
Is this? I don't know his last name. The guy behind Antihero.
Yes, it is.
Nice. Okay.
We're gonna get him on here too. You got that, Rex? But he started jiu-jitsu maybe just a few years ago, and I mean,
Oh, okay.
he's
Got a clothing line now.
got a clothing line and everything. It's amazing. He's a prodigy right there. But
Wow.
if you just make it consistent, and I mean now when I started jiu-jitsu, there wasn't YouTube.
Yeah.
It was literally you go to class, that's what you learn. But now there's just so many more resources. So, just if you were to take it on like as an educational standpoint, and you were to download these DVDs or not DVDs, these online courses, and you take them, then you're gonna learn.
Okay.
And then as long as you apply it, right?
With going back to donuts, like with your wholesale accounts, like, is there a way that you've learned over time to that best works in your favor, or win-win situations with these wholesale accounts when you're trying to create a new account? What's the best approach?
So I never reach out. I don't actually reach out to anyone for wholesale accounts.
Oh shit!
Because I look at it as, if I reach out and they say yes, that's more work, right? And right now we only have one fryer. I'm working on getting a second fryer, but I've been working with one fryer. I mean, my parents have been working, just in general, we've been working with one fryer for the last 30 years, right?
Wow.
So that means really long hours in producing all the donut line that you see every day.
Okay.
So as far as like the wholesale accounts go, it's literally been friends of friends that have reached out for donuts. And I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Just small business. You help one friend, you help them grow, and then the next thing's like, oh, well, blah, blah is going to start a coffee shop too.
Yeah.
Can they reach out? They want to carry some pastries. So that's pretty much how it's gone.
Is there anything outside of donuts that you're interested in trying? You mentioned croissants like a minute ago, but is there anything else?
I think just having some type of, kolaches is something I've been interested in.
Oh, wow.
So I have a cousin that owns a Shipley's. I don't know if you've heard of Shipley's in Texas. So it's like a donut chain in Texas, and they do kolaches. But that's something that I've been interested in trying to learn. I have yet to take the time to go down there and learn how to make kolaches, but essentially it's dough and some kind of meat, smoked meats. I do enjoy smoky meat. I got a nice Traeger at the house, so
nice.
It'd be nice to make some meats and put those in kolaches. But again, just finding the time to do all that, that's a difficult thing.
Yeah. Is there anything else you're curious about these days that you wish you had more time to learn about besides that?
Everything. Just illustration, graphics, Photoshop.
Damn.
Photography. Like, I wish I could have got out in all of it.
If Conrad's listening, unless you know Conrad.
I know Conrad.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You know.
I know everyone.
You know. Is there anything else we haven't talked about that you'd like to share? This was a huge treat. Thanks for bringing the donuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't had Gurnee Donuts in so long.
No, I thank you for bringing me on and just bringing some exposure to Gurnee Donuts and the struggle that my parents went through and to get to where we are today with Gurnee Donuts.
Yeah, it's I think about legacy a lot and trying to do justice by our parents, even if our personal relationships with our parents can be a little complicated. We still acknowledge all the sacrifices that they did for us, for us to be able to think about what we want to do in life, and it's in the grand scheme of things, it's a luxury, it's a privilege to be able to think about these things.
For sure,
you're not running from life or death.
And just with parents in general, parents are always going to want the best, and I mean, they're ride or die for their children, and I get that, and I know that my mom and dad worked their asses off their entire lives, and they're still working their asses off when they don't need to. But it's just they know what it's like to have nothing, and they don't want their children or even their grandchildren to have nothing. And I see it with their work ethic, and I also see it with how they hoard things. Just they do not throw anything away. Like all these plastic buckets that we use for like fillings and whatnot, like they literally have to keep all of it, and like, for what? It's like, what? Do you feel like you're gonna run out of water and you need to have water and like saved up?
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, where can people find you if you want to be found?
Instagram, Gurnee Donuts. Facebook, Gurnee Donuts. Personal, Kaylee5 if you guys want to follow me.
With a K or with a C?
With a K.
Kaylee. Oh, Kaylee. Okay.
And it's just photos of my family. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guys, till next time, stay curious.